Remember the mysterious creature that we've seen crawling around Death Mountain? The recent weather trailer gives us a better look at it, revealing more than you may have expected. You're watching Zelda Pod Smashers. The new footage is a lot better than what we had earlier, but it's still pretty far away. I wish I had one of those enhanced modes like you see in the movies, but sadly that doesn't really exist. I'll zoom in even further, but perhaps you find the smaller footage easier to watch, so I'll keep showing that as well. You can see the giant crawl around the crater on tentacle legs. It looks like how the guardians move around, so chances are that this is indeed a very large guardian. Another reason to believe it's a guardian is how it moves around. It keeps making identical circles, like it mechanically patrols the area. A living animal probably wouldn't keep walking like that. But now that we have a closer look, we can notice it's not exactly like the other guardians. We see what looks like a large tail. You can see it pretty clearly here when the giant crawls to the back of the mountain. What kind of weird tail is it? There's a big blob at the end of it. Is the tail carrying something? Perhaps a treasure or a piece of Sheikah technology that we have to retrieve? Remember the one-eyed giant in the Switch trailer? It has something around its neck that looks like a Sheikah item. Perhaps multiple bosses carry pieces around and we need to collect them and put them together? The body of the giant has a different shape than those of the guardians we've seen before. The body seems to be a lot flatter and longer. With that flatter body and the tail, it actually looks like this creature to me, a scorpion. It's not a perfect match though, we don't see any pincers, at least not from this far away. Skyward Sword had a scorpion boss, and A Link to the Past also had a boss that looked a bit like a scorpion. Will Breath of the Wild continue this tradition of scorpion-inspired bosses? So my current guess is, the Giant of Death Mountain is a big guardian that resembles a scorpion, whereas the normal guardians look more like spiders. And it might be carrying something with its tail. Then the question on everyone's mind is, how large is it? At first I thought I could compare it to the size of Death Mountain's crater, but we don't have a map on which Death Mountain can be clearly seen, so that doesn't work. But this picture may give us the only clue we need. It shows the giant from the front, and it shows one of the towers. GameXplain taught us where Death Mountain and that tower are on the map. It's here and here. With this map, I calculated the distance between Link, or the camera, and both the tower and Death Mountain. Death Mountain is 3.6 times farther away than the tower. On this picture, this is how the giant compares to the tower. It goes from pillar to pillar. If my high school math and physics are still correct, that means the giant is 3.6 or let's say 3.5 times bigger than this part of the tower. Here we have some footage of Link standing on a tower. So the size of the giant should be 3.5 times the length between the pillars. Let's take our scorpion picture to visualize that. Or this would be Link standing on the giant. Look at that, that's huge! And remember, we saw the giant from the front, while now we're looking at the scorpion from the side. The actual thing might be even bigger, but I want to be careful not to set too high expectations. The size of this thing reminds me of the battle with Levias in Skyward Sword. A huge boss where we had to fly around him and eventually land on his head to continue the fight. That brings me to the next question. How are we going to take the giant down? There is no way that we'll simply shoot a few arrows while we stand next to it. I'm expecting there will be multiple ways to defeat it. Does it have a weak spot on its back? An eye like the Guardians have? Do we climb it like in Shadow of the Colossus maybe? And speaking of climbing, where will we fight him? That crater looks way too steep to walk on, so do we lure him away from there? Or can we sneak up on him and climb onto his back without him even noticing? Or how about this? Remember the first footage of Breath of the Wild shown at E3? The guardian that was chasing Link had one tentacle cut off, as you can see here. And it looks like it had all tentacles intact a few scenes earlier. Of course, the game was still very early in development back then. Who knows what they've changed since then. But apparently they did have the idea of bosses that can lose limbs. If they wanted to do something with it, a huge boss would be ideal for this idea. And take a look at the Steptalus. You can destroy his rock arms. Will we see more destructible bosses in the game? Let's hope so. But there could be another way to take down a huge boss like that. Now, this is pure speculation, but take a look at this scene from the Minish Cap. A tiny Link climbs into a boss and takes him down from the inside. Imagine doing that with the giant of Death Mountain. How awesome would that be? Or could the creature even have a shrine inside? You can see something on top of its body. It's probably just the head, just like the Guardians have. But what if it's actually this? The entrance to a shrine? Imagine that, a huge boss that you have to defeat by solving the shrine that it holds inside. That might be too good to be true, but who knows. One thing's for sure, this is going to be one epic fight. That's all I could find out about the Giant of Death Mountain. But it doesn't have to end here. How do you plan on taking down this thing? Let us know in the comments below. Check out the podcast we did with Game Over Jesse about why Breath of the Wild got delayed so often. Thanks for watching and see you guys next time.